welcome to a brand new episode of In Other Words with Danielle and Zara.
So this is a podcast where we talk about a wide variety of different subjects, from gender-based violence to social media. So in other words, we talk about all the things.
So every week we promote a local brand, and this week I want to promote a brand that you can find on Instagram. Their handle is the mobile wash _SA, and they're based in Durbanville, and they basically come to your house and wash your car. It's incredible. Definitely check them out.
Wow, sounds very impressive.
So convenient.
I know. So today we're going to get into a topic that I think we both find quite interesting.
Yes.
And that is just digging into masculinity and femininity. And this is not going to be a talk about gender or biology or anything like that.
Not about your sexual orientation, nothing like that.
Because we're not professionals, we don't know that much about it, but we're talking about how we've perceived the world and how it is to be a woman, basically.
In this world.
Exactly.
So I think the first thing that we want to establish is that there are differences between a man and a woman.
Yes.
Because we don't want to go into this discussion
pretending that it's exactly the same.
Yes. And I mean, the way that obviously we have different genitalia.
What?
A man can't carry a child. And also, and I think sometimes maybe people find this offensive, or I don't know, but like our bodies are built differently. So for example, like there's a reason why men's Olympics and women's Olympics are separated. And it's not saying that the one is stronger than the other. Our makeup, our bodies are different. Our hormones differ. And I always say, like, yes, men and women like can do anything, but dancing is one of my favorite things, especially like your ballroom and your Latin. There's generally a male and a female because he serves as the frame because of the build of his body, and the woman is the picture. That's how they describe it. So there are differences, and so please don't hear what we're not saying. We're not denying the fact that men and women are different.
I think often what happens, let's say, like with masculinity and femininity and how we perceive those things, we forget sometimes that they are socially constructed.
Yes.
And like, I've always felt like quite passionately about the subject because I've always just believed that people view femininity to be weaker, if you know what I mean. Whereas like masculinity is like strength and assertive and all that, femininity is weaker. And I remember seeing a few months ago when Harry Styles wore a dress on the cover of Vogue, I think. And I remember quite a few people were quite upset about it, and Candace Owens like wrote this whole thing about how horrible it is that Harry's wearing a dress and is like assaulting masculinity, whatever.
She said, bring back the manly man.
Exactly. But if you looked at her Instagram, she was wearing like a man's suit. And I'm like, why?
That's the thing. If you're going to make a comment, then she should be wearing dresses all the time. And there is actually a verse in Deuteronomy that does bring this into question. But that does come down to, number one, context, understanding the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yes.
And if you have questions about that, hit me up. But yeah, I think the issue is, again, there you see the double standard in her saying she's not a womanly woman.
Exactly.
So that was very, very frustrating. But also, just now with regards to clothing, now that we're bringing this up, it really depends on society.
So much. It's actually ridiculous.
Because, okay, so yes, we're seeing now a skirt as a woman's
object.
In biblical times, men wore robes.
Exactly.
Like, were they wearing dresses? Like in
Scotland.
They wear kilt. And I mean, they would do the Highland Games in kilts, which was this like so-called manly sport, and they were wearing quote-unquote skirts. So what's interesting is that the society and the culture at the time determines the clothing. So that's why I don't think you can really use clothing as an example of whether someone fits into your idea of masculinity.
Not even dresses or skirts, but I mean, if you just look at high heels, they were originally made for men. I'm not joking. Go look it up. It's only after a while that like women started wearing high heels. So I think it's always important to remember that kind of thing before casting like judgment on a person because they're wearing something that doesn't fit. I'm talking really fast. That doesn't fit into the gender norm.
Yes.
Like that you can say, oh, you're not being masculine or you're not being feminine, because it doesn't make that much sense if you think about it.
And at the end of the day, clothing is more I don't know.
It's an
Clothing
expression.
is, yes, and it's a very personal thing. Like, you're kind of expressing yourself.
Yes.
And I always say to people, like, when we were created, we were naked. Like, I mean, clothing was really not on the forefront of the Lord's mind.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about masculinity and femininity, like, what are the things that come to your mind about those
Well, the first thing is this whole idea of pink is for girls and blue is for boys.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's the case. In fact, if I had to choose between pink and blue, I would
go for blue?
Yeah,
a nice baby blue.
Does that make
turquoise.
me less of a woman? So I think it's that. But then it's also, like you said, there's certain behaviors that are seen as more masculine.
Yes.
So it's like being strong and being assertive.
Yeah.
And I think something that's bugged me always is that, like you said, women are seen as weaker. Emotions are seen as weak.
Yeah.
Which for me, I don't know, I feel like that's so damaging. Like, I think of a little boy and like someone screaming at them like, don't cry, like, get over it kind of thing, because
then they grow up emotionally stunted.
And one of the biggest issues in relationships is is statistically, not being a stereotype here, statistically men struggle to express their emotions, and it's because you brought up in this way where you can't show emotion. And also this idea of, like, I always say, men react and women overreact. And by all means say that, but also our hormones actually work differently and they feed into that. So it's not, don't be rude. I'm overreacting now.
I was going to say something now. What were you just talking about?
You see how much she listens to me, guys. It's all coming out now.
That's fine.
It was just the emotions thing.
Oh, yes. Like how you're saying how emotions are often perceived to be weaker. And I mean, there's still like many people who believe that women shouldn't have, let's say, roles in the church even, or like roles in leadership because they're seen as more emotional and therefore like they're not rational, because apparently they believe that emotions are like the opposite of rational, which doesn't necessarily make, it's like, I don't really think that's true, because
the opposite of rational is irrational.
Exactly. And if you have the ability to understand your emotions and like to get on
more
with it,
more power to you.
Like, that's very rational. But anyway, if you look at like some of the like leading countries, like New Zealand,
come on,
it's got a woman prime minister and they're doing so well. So like, what's the deal?
Exactly. And then I think also there's certain sayings that we like associate with like
being
the
a man,
yes.
Being
so
a woman.
They tell you, and I've heard it said to women as well, it's just a saying like, grow a pair. Like, and that means like, suck it up, be strong.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what that means, because I would rather say like, get a vagina, because we push babies out. Like, who really is stronger? Do you know what I mean? So it's things like that. And like, even just be a man. Like,
like, what does that mean?
Yes, exactly.
What does that mean?
And I am of the opinion that people struggle with, and I've never personally felt like this, but I know a lot of people have said, like, growing up and people wanting to change genders because they don't feel comfortable in their body, they feel like they were born in the wrong body. I don't know if that's a body thing more so than a pressure thing. Like, if I grow up and someone tells me to act a certain way and I don't want to, I'm gonna feel like I don't belong. Like, let's just say that I was born like as a boy and I was told that I couldn't cry and I couldn't play with dolls,
and you have to wear boys' clothes,
and I have to wear boys' clothes, and I don't feel like that. That doesn't necessarily make me a woman. That just makes me a boy who likes things that are not associated with boys. And I think that's one of the huge reasons why people struggle with their gender, is because they are told to fit into a box that they were never ever built to fit into.
It's so binary, the way that we're supposed to act, if you know what I mean. And I think like there's absolutely nothing wrong with like fitting into the binary. Like I'm probably more feminine. I'm definitely more feminine than I am masculine. And I enjoy wearing nice dresses and all that. But like, if I were told always that I wasn't allowed to play with, like, let's say, like boys' toys or whatever, it'd be ridiculous. I'd be like, well, why not? I want to. And I'm not trying to dismiss like gender dysphoria or anything like that. Like, that's a legit thing. But I think one of the things that has always like irked me is just the way that femininity is, I'm going to say demonized, but it's like quite a harsh word, but I think it's desired in a way. Like a lot of men desire a woman who's maybe more feminine, you know, she's going to clean the house, she's going to give the baby, she's going to look after the children, she's going to be submissive, you know what I mean? Like the typical thing.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, let's say in movies, often like the female villain is quite feminine.
Yes.
Like if you look at movies such as Mean Girls, for example, like they are typical girls.
Yeah.
They're wearing pink, they're just dressing in a way that is more feminine.
The cheerleader archetype.
Exactly. Like they're the mean girl.
Yes.
And I think that that also plays into the whole stereotype that even girls say, that girls are like more drama than boys are.
Yes.
And that is something that irritates me, because that is not necessarily true. Like and I think that's also a sign of internal misogyny, you know?
Exactly.
And like, just because that's how you deem girls to be, like it doesn't mean that they are that way. And you're gonna say something?
Yes, I think that kind of also ties a lot into what we were talking about before we even formed this, was just the whole idea of like feminism. A lot of people are like, feminism and women being strong has actually played into masculinity.
Yes, it has.
Which I think is interesting. Like, I realize how much I fall into this because we watch like a superhero movie and we see like a woman fighting and we're like, wow, she's so badass. Or we see a woman who, for example, is like, I don't need a man, and we say that's like super badass. But like, we are still feeding into the masculine qualities. So now what we're saying in turn in this, I think they call it second wave feminism, is saying that you have to be physically strong to be a strong woman, or you need to, let's just say, not desire to have a man, or like, do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's also what's dangerous. And people, like, when people are shouting and screaming and standing up for feminism, just remember that we're not saying that anyone's better.
Exactly.
And we're also not trying to, you're not going to become a stronger woman by putting on masculine qualities. Like, I don't know, my thing is, if you want to stay home and you want to fit into your quote-unquote feminine woman's archetype, that's perfectly fine. Like, stay at home, look after your kids if you want to. That makes you just as strong, you know?
And I mean, the whole point of feminism really is, like, obviously equality for all, but also to support the right of women to choose to be like what they want to be. So whether that be a mom of many children staying at home, or a woman who is working 9 hours a day, and that's fine. And I think like what you're saying was so true, because women have also like been pushed, I think, into a world that is more masculine than anything else. You know, it's I think it's really difficult for a woman to really choose. I don't think you have to choose at all.
No.
Like if you're going to have children, you're going to have a job, and you can do both. But I think people often don't speak about how draining that is to be a working mother, and obviously to be.
I watch my mom do it. And
to
I'm
be
like,
a mother
how
in
do
a
you
whole
do
is
it?
to be a mother like at all is a big job. But like the working world hasn't changed. I mean, maybe it's changed a bit, but like not entirely to actually suit the needs of women, because women have only recently in history entered into the working world. But anyway, so like they've also been forced to become more masculine, in the sense that working is traditionally more masculine.
And I think what's important to understand is, just moving away from femininity and just talking about feminism now, and this whole idea of being equal, understand that we're in this position because of the fact that women have been oppressed. So understand that we're screaming and shouting because of the oppression. It's not like, our main thing is we just want to be seen as equal, and not have to change who we are to be seen as equal, or to be seen as stronger. So I think that's really what we're getting at. But I did have a question for you. And what is your opinion on chivalry?
Well, I don't know, because I think chivalry is like a way of showing respect to another person. So I think no matter who you are, no matter your gender, your sex, like be a polite person, and like I genuinely appreciate if a guy like holds a door open for me, but at the same time, if I see a guy is coming after me and I'm like going into a room, then I will hold the door open for him as well.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. So like in that very shallow sense, I think chivalry like can apply to anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
Well, I said I've always appreciated chivalry.
Yeah.
And not in the sense that like women lay back and men do everything for you. I think it's a testament to men seeing the value in women, not seeing like they can't do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So not opening the door or whatever you deem chivalrous.
Yeah.
Not to belittle the woman and say you can't do it. Because I've seen people get offended by saying like, oh, I'm a woman, do you think I can't do this? Why
Really?
Yes,
That's
I've
silly.
seen it. I'll talk to you about that after. But it's just seeing the significance in a woman.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I recognize you as a person. Let me, you know,
Let
be
me-
a gentleman, if you will.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just, maybe that's traditional of me.
No, I agree with you. I think everyone can be whatever they want. I think traditional like things like that aren't necessarily bad.
No.
Unless you, like you said, you're only doing it because you think women are like weaker and can't do things for themselves.
Yes.
Because we all know that not to be true.
Yeah.
Unless you don't. And in that case, I don't know, go do your research. But I think one of the more interesting things, this is not really on what we are saying, but just going back to like entertainment, is that things that girls like, especially teenage girls,
Yes.
like let's say bands, singers, like let's say One Direction,
Yes.
they might not have like the worst music, but people have like really like hated on them because
you're
they're
typical.
they're a teenage girl band.
Yes.
And that's how they were
Founded.
marketed.
They're all phenomenal musicians individually. Like,
Exactly. And like I feel so sorry for all of them like who've gone out and done their solo things, because they've also had to fight that kind of stereotype of being like,
Yes.
oh, whatever, you're just for teenage girls. But like, why is it that teenage girls are not taken seriously?
oh my word.
Why is
Yeah.
it that things that we like, I mean, I'm not a teenager anymore, but I was back in the day. But like things that are marketed as like more feminine, you know,
Yes.
it's just not taken seriously. And that's just a very bizarre thing to me.
Yes, I think that's what we're trying to call attention
Yeah.
to.
And even if you look at the Beatles were a band for teenage girls as well. I know they're like, you wouldn't necessarily believe it now because everyone likes the Beatles,
Yeah.
except for you, Zara.
I don't hate the Beatles.
But back in the day, they were also like made fun of and not taken as seriously because
They were liked by women.
exactly.
We actually have good taste, guys.
I know, like we know these things. And also like roundabout in the same vein, in movies, like the cool girl is always like the very masculine one, if you know what I mean. Like she's the one
Yes.
sitting there, she's drinking the beers, she's dressing this cool way, she's watching sport. And I'm not saying that like girls never like that, but like
Yes.
boys are mostly like those things. I don't know why, but
Also,
anyway.
what's difficult is that a guy wants a girl to wear heels and dress up for him, but she must also play video games.
Yeah,
And it's like, what do you want from us? I can't do it all.
exactly.
Yes. And then also just in sports, guys, I'm going to tell you a story that really, really set me off. So, and this, I'm not trying to go into, this is not a sexuality at all, but this comment was made that way. I always say, I want to marry a dancer.
Yes.
Someone needs to teach me the ballroom and Latin dance. And I told someone about this, and he said, oh, good luck finding someone, they're all gay. Because apparently, like, dancing is,
Gay.
yeah, it's
Or
not even
more
gay,
feminine.
it's for women.
It's feminine, yeah. But I was saying this to you earlier. It's bizarre to me how a sport like rugby is seen as this like hyper masculine sport, when like the men are touching men the whole time in like weird places. Let me tell you. But like the dancing, but ballet, where like men who are seen to be more feminine,
Yes.
they're the ones like up close with the girl.
Yes.
Some of those
Who's really winning?
Like, go watch some of those dances from Dancing with the Stars. Nothing gay about that, I'll tell you that.
So yeah, it's just interesting, and I think what we're trying to get at, and my huge thing is, I will never deny that a woman and a man are not different, which is what we said in the beginning. But don't box people and
Yeah.
don't restrict people.
Yeah.
Like, let kids, especially kids, let them explore,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
If don't tell children from a young age that's a boy thing, that's a girl thing. Because then they are going to feel like there's something wrong with me, that I don't like a
Yeah.
specific thing. So, yeah, I don't know, just be
Yeah.
kind. Don't be offensive.
Exactly.
That's what we say every episode.
Don't be offensive.
Do your thing, just don't be offensive.
Don't be rude. But like, just the importance of allowing a child to like play
Yes.
is just, it's so important. And I mean, like, I have 2 brothers, and both of them like grew up playing with like some of my toys, wearing some of my clothes, because like they were just like, oh, I like that, I want to wear that, and it was just never like a weird thing. And we've all grown up like quite secure in our gender and
Identity
our
and-
sexuality and all of that
yes.
kind of stuff. And at the same time, like, I was not really that interested in like stereotypically boys stuff. Like, I loved my dolls, I wore my dresses, I loved it all, and that's just how it was. But what's quite interesting is that even like for girls, like little girls, I remember like legitimately being teased for like being too girly, which then brought on like a whole phase of mine where I was like, okay, now I'm going to be a tomboy because I don't want to be too girly. Which is
Yeah.
weird, because like if you want boys to be like masculine and girls to be feminine, like why are you making fun of girls for
Yeah.
being feminine?
Yes.
You know, like that just never made any
100%.
sense to me.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, you can embrace, there's certain things that are, let's just say, more feminine, more masculine,
and
and
that's
you
okay.
can embrace both of them. And I
Yeah.
think that the world we live in, we need
Yeah.
both. Just like we need more logical people and more creative people.
Yeah.
We need attributes that are different.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think my, like, main message would be, if you're a guy who cries, you cry.
You
if
do
you're
it.
a guy who struggles to cry, some guys just can't cry, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're a girl who is loving her high heels and her lipstick, by all means.
Do it.
If you're a girl who wants to wear pants every day of your life, go for it.
Amen. And also just like stop seeing femininity as like weak or as stupid or anything like that. And actually, one thing that like I really appreciated is like that kind of trope of like the feminine girl as being stupid is kind of like
Yes.
dying away. And I think
Yes.
like one of the movies that really just personifies the dying away is like Legally Blonde. Oh, I love that movie. I've only seen it once.
You can be
Like you can be like the
blonde
most
and perky and pink
Yeah.
and still be a
you can be like the
lawyer.
most like stereotypically girly girl
Yes.
and still be
Get the things done.
brilliant, and you
Yeah.
can do it. And I think another message that I have, especially for you guys, is stop shying away from conversations about women's like business, if you know what I mean. The amount of times that it's happened where like let's say a group of girls and like are talking about something and then they can bring up their period or they can bring up menopause or whatever, and a guy can walk past, they'll be like, oh, I'll be leaving now. And it's like, why can't you talk about feminine things? Because like half of the population is female. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not going to become a woman just by listening to a conversation.
And
You're going to learn, and that's a good thing.
even your period, like that is one of the reasons why the human race has continued.
Exactly.
Without the way our body works,
Exactly.
you couldn't have children.
And also the fact that like guys won't want to like carry a girl's handbag. Let's say she's going to the bathroom, she says, can you please hold my handbag? And they don't want to do that. Why?
Just hold
It's a
the
bag. It's bizarre. So like don't be so fragile in your masculinity, boys. I know
Yes.
like what you're thinking, fragile masculinity, what is that? It's when you can't even like embrace any kind of femininity.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. Embrace it. You'll be fine.
So you be you, you do you. We love you.
We do. Well, I think we've said that all that we wanted to say for this
Yes.
topic. And yeah, if you guys like want to interact with us more, please do it.
do.
Especially if you're watching on YouTube. If like and subscribe.
Yes,
you know,
that
all
gets
those
our
things.
content out there.
Exactly.
A lot of people like, because I actually get into the habit, I watch YouTube videos and I don't like them. I mean, I like them, but I
Yeah,
don't
but you
click
don't like them.
So we would appreciate if you
Yeah.
click the like button. We are on Instagram at in other words _podcast.
Exactly. So if you ever have any like suggestions for us or questions for us, you're welcome to pop us a message
Criticism?
there. Criticism?
We're open to it.
No, I'm joking. And we also want to shout out Graphik Studios.
Yes, spelt with a K at the end of Graphik.
And I was about to say there, but there's only one person.
For now.
That's Devin, that's my boyfriend. And he does all of our sound, visuals.
All the things we can't do.
I want to say all the
All
things.
the things.
Yeah, check him out on Instagram as well. He's very talented.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. See you next time.
Bye.